kitchen besties, welcome to my full kitchen tour. This is a video I have been looking forward to filming for months at this point, if not years. I had every intention of having it come out last month when I got monetized on YouTube. So exciting. But I had some complications after my wisdom teeth were removed that kind of pushed it back a little bit. I am doing a lot better now. I still have a little bit of numbness in this corner of my mouth, but night and day difference from 2 months ago. So I thought it was time to give you the tour, show you around. Let's get started. And here is how this is gonna work because you're not physically in the kitchen with me to help guide the conversation. I'll walk you in, show you the general layout and get the feel for the kitchen while I tell you about some of the customization options we had when we built the house, and then give you an in-depth look in my baking drawers, baking cabinets, fridge, freezer, pantry, before ending with a Q&A of questions that my followers on Instagram asked me. If you're not already following me on Instagram and you want to see more of me than every 2 to 3 months when I post a long form video on YouTube, highly recommend following me there. But if you just want to hang out on YouTube, that's fine too. Let me show you around. First off, this is a tract home. We built it with a local developer. There were only 8 lots left and we managed to snag one of them in fall of 2020. You'll hear more about that a little bit later. And all of the upgrade options were condensed into these 4 pages, which was really nice. We didn't have a ton of customization options, but there were enough to make it feel like our home. So we upgraded the appliances that came with the house. They gave us a full sheet talking about which ones came with what appliances. I looked up reviews on all of them, figured out the best combination, and we went with that. We also made a trip to the design center where we got to pick out the countertops, the cabinet colors, and the backsplash, along with the paint colors throughout the rest of the house, the flooring, all of that good stuff. One of the limitations with the developer was that we couldn't change the layout of anything, but they did such a good job designing the kitchen. This is my dream kitchen, and it's the first house that we own, and I really can't believe that. Wow. This is so fun, being able to show all of the little corners of my kitchen. I try not to do this too often while I'm filming because you can hear the drawers open through my microphone, but I have a ton of baking drawers at my disposal right here. So anything that I want when I am in the middle of a recipe, I can pretty much open up a drawer and grab it. I'm gonna show you what I have inside. We're starting in the middle because this is where I have my most commonly used items. I've got spatulas, measuring cups and spoons, whisks, pastry brushes, more measuring cups, and some miscellaneous that just kind of hide in the back and I don't use quite as often. Then one to the left of that, I have my kitchen scale, all of my pastry and piping bags underneath, some cookie scoops, circle cutters, my piping tip set, and a cow cookie cutter because why not, along with some colored cupcake liners that I don't use too frequently. Then one more over. I don't use this drawer a ton. The rolling pin is what I use most. These are my gel food coloring sets, some cupcake liners. These are more piping bags, but they're a little bit smaller. I have a ton of chapstick in here for when I'm filming, like right now, because my lips get really dry. Pastry roller, some gold luster dust, and assorted cookie cutters. This one just to the right of my main baking drawer. I use this one probably second most frequently because it has so many different kitchen tools in here. Can openers, peelers, graters, zesters, citrus juicer, like I've got a ton of things in this one. And this one on the other edge I also don't use a ton. We've got chopsticks and straws along with a few leftover items that didn't really fit in another drawer. Back to the center here, this drawer holds my KitchenAid mixer attachments, bench scraper, my offset spatulas, handy thermometer, some dough whisks, excess macaron mats, sifters, and then these are not normally in here, but our pantry is on an exterior wall and it can get a little bit warm in the summer, which was a little bit too warm for chocolate chips, and I have a sponsored post coming out with them soon. So these are in here for safekeeping. And then this drawer is just excess kitchen towels. There's nothing too exciting in there. One of my favorite things about the center island being so deep is that I have tons of room for my pots and pans. I can fit more than my whole arm back here. I'm not even touching the back wall. This has been really helpful for finding places to put Dutch ovens and pasta rollers and mortar and pestles even. There's just a ton of room. And this cabinet on the left side of my baking drawers is where I keep a lot of the food photography props. I have 2 spots for my food photography props. This is one of them. I use these old white bakery boxes to reflect light back on my shooting surfaces. That way it softens the shadows and makes it just a little bit easier to shoot using natural light. I also have small boxes for giving my baked goods to neighbors and friends. My pizza peel, some more bakery boxes down there. And these cabinets are so deep that I can actually store a full-size pizza peel in there. It's great. Large versions of food coloring, my ice cream maker, the plates that I tend to use for my food photography. I also have some of an antique glass, I would say china set, but it's made of glass, where I've got a lot of cups and goblets and serving dishes back there. I also have a small collection of sprinkles that I've used. This is my secondary props cabinet because I have a lot of my cake paraphernalia in here. I have my cake turntable along with a wooden cake platter, unrelated salad spinner, and a couple cake stands back there. I also have a couple nicer bowls for shooting things like hummus or pasta. These are for an experiment. Our waffle maker and some Tupperware back there along with the second Dutch oven. And then I have the very last of my food photography props in this corner here. And I don't normally use a lot of props. I think it's a lot easier for me to just make my baked goods look prettier, and then they don't really need it. But cooked foods, those are another story. These 2 longer cabinets are where I store most of my baking pans, which is going to be a little tricky. I'll do my best. So in the bottom cabinet at about waist height, I have the majority of my baking pans. I've got 4 aluminum pans that I use for macarons and cookies, 2 darker roasting pans, aluminum jelly roll pans that I can make macarons in my Breville oven with, 2 darker pans that are about the same size, and then smaller sheets, a couple specialty pans, and then 4 aluminum cupcake pans. Making our way down here, we've got my 6-inch cake pans here, along with 3 pie pans, and then I also have my 8 and 9-inch cake tins in the back. And then these bottom 2 shelves have more of my miscellaneous cooling racks, along with a dark cupcake pan that works well for muffins. And then, surprise, more baking pans. Glass casserole dish along with a few square and rectangular USA pans, a couple bread loaf pans, square glass baking dish, my bundt cake pans, and then larger casserole pans up here, and then way up at the top there that I can just barely reach. My preferred method of transportation for cupcakes and macarons and cookies and all sorts of baked goods. Welcome to our fridge. I won't keep the doors open for too long, but I'll give you an idea of what we have. I always have 5 dozen eggs at any given time. Lots of milk. This top drawer is my currant butter stash. Some different condiments there. Leftovers, which surprisingly are few right now. It has the backlighting, which makes it really convenient to see what's in there. It's not dark in the least. These drawers pull out really nicely, and they are slow closed. Really slow, of course, on camera. It has one of those door-in-door features where you can access these bottom condiments and then this pops out. And that's usually what I do when I'm reaching for butter, because that's the easiest. Our fridge is one of the models with 4 doors, so we have this little drawer here where we keep sparkling water, extra butter, some cheese, and this is normally the cheese and sparkling water drawer. I don't keep a ton of my baking items in this freezer, so there's not really much to see here. This was a horrible ice cream. It could not make a milkshake. Some Trader Joe's hash browns, pumpkin pie ice cream, which just went up on the blog, and then some frozen protein options and vegetables. And the time has come for me to finally share the story of our 4 fridges. This was our favorite thing for our friends to ask the first year that we lived here because we had so many problems with our fridges. The moral of the story is to always purchase your appliances through Costco because they have a great return policy. The first fridge that we ordered was the very base model from GE. It had these same handles, but it did not have a water or ice dispenser. Any fridge that we have seen in the past, the first thing to go is the water or the ice dispenser, and then you have to replace the whole fridge if you want your water or ice dispenser to work, and that just doesn't really seem cost effective, and we thought, okay, you know what, we don't need it. So we got it, and it actually did have a water hookup, but it was inside the door, like right here, and you had to press really hard with your thumb or index finger in order to get the water to come out. And it came out so slowly that it really was not worth it for us. And we thought, you know what, let's look and see if we could get one with a water dispenser, because Costco offers free returns, no questions asked. If you don't like their appliances, they will take them. I don't know what they do with them. I don't know how they make money back off of it. But we thought, okay, let's go with the second fridge. So we requested a return on that. Costco came, picked it up, and we ordered the second fridge, which was the second tier in the GE lineup here. That one had a much less fancy ice and water dispenser. Worked really well, we had no complaints about that, but the noise on this fridge was so bad. It sounded like the compressor was dying, and it was brand new out of the box. I would be sitting in the living room trying to watch TV or read or sit on my phone or just like sit in the silence sometimes, you know, and all I could hear was the fridge compressor bouncing around in my brain back and forth, and it was driving me insane. I would go into my office, I would shut the door, and I could still hear it through the walls. I could hear it in the laundry room on the other side of this. I could hear it anywhere downstairs. And I was going insane, and Austin said, okay, well, then maybe we need to return it. I thought, I hate being that person, okay? I really do. But we had to return it. Requested a return, Costco authorized it, and they said they would have someone come out to pick it up. I don't remember, yeah, I think it was this one. Yes, it was, okay. They said they would have somebody contact us to come pick it up, like they did the first one. A week goes by, 2 weeks go by, and there has been no fridge pickup. There's been no fridge discussion. We have ordered a third fridge at this point, and we say, hey, it would be really convenient if you took the old fridge at the same time that you brought in the new one. And they said, okay. They didn't do it. So we got our third fridge, which was this model. However, the delivery people dented the drawer in this middle drawer here. They had a couple dents on this front panel, and I think there was a dent on the bottom too. That I called Costco and they said, okay, well, we can either offer you money and you can keep it, or you can get another fridge. And so we thought, well, we've already had 3 fridges, what's the harm in getting a 4th? And so they scheduled a swap, and we had our 4th fridge. By the time we had our 4th fridge, we still had the 2nd fridge hanging out in our living room. So that was why our friends would always ask, do you still have your fridge? How is your fridge situation? And this 4th fridge is not without its flaws because it did not make ice the first week that we had it. We called the GE technician, we had that free 1-year warranty check. The guy comes out and he looks at it and he goes, am I missing something? Is there an ice maker in there? And we look, and there was no motor to blow the cold air from the bottom of the freezer up into the door for the ice. The technician called it into GE. They said, send in the faulty motor. And he said, there simply is not one. You did not add it in the factory. So they just shipped out a new one. He came back a few days later to install that one. And then, ever since, this fridge has worked pretty well. I have noticed that sometimes when you're pushing on the water dispenser, it stops dispensing despite the button still being pushed. So I'm not sure if that's an issue of air in the line or just a mechanical something or other, but it is such a small issue after 4 fridges that I'm willing to live with it. I don't want to get a 5th one. We have a fun party trick with our fridge called the autofill feature, and it will sense how much water you need to fill up the rest of your cup, and will stop right before that. Thank you. I kind of treat this as my baking corner. I've got my KitchenAid mixer over here, some cutting boards, My cookbooks, always, always, always pens and pencils for when I'm working on a recipe, because if I do not write the measurements down, I will forget them and then I have to test it once more. And then of course my Breville toaster oven. It makes it really easy to cook dinner for just 2 people. I feel a lot better about heating up that small of a space as opposed to our large gas stove if we're baking only 2 pieces of fish. This drawer is where I keep my aluminum foil and parchment for easy access. I can simply pull out a sheet and then use it in my Breville, which is right there. Parchment is the same deal. And then I have Ziploc bags. I use a lot of reusable silicone bags for frozen veggies and bread and hash browns and frozen options, but for marinating meat, Ziplocs are still my go-to. And then I have my chip clips handy here in the sandwich bags. And then this drawer is very convenient too. It has some of the lesser used cleaning brushes, my beeswax, and plastic wrap, and this is super convenient in this location because I can simply take off a piece and take it wherever I need to go. My mother-in-law got me these cute cat head measuring cups and measuring spoons that I would love to do a cat-themed recipe with and use in that photo shoot. You normally see this section in the background of all of my baking videos. I just restocked on my Trader Joe's vanilla bean paste. This is the only time of year that they have it, and it is so good in custards and buttercreams. I have our more frequently used spices up here in my spice cabinet directly to the right of the stove. I have all of the smaller containers down here, and then the bigger ones that we purchased from Costco up here. Some of them, like the granulated garlic and onion powder, those just stay up there because we use a lot of it at a time. But things like cinnamon, I just refill in the smaller containers and just keep reusing that for convenience. And then I also have a collection of our spatulas and tongs and spoons that I use while I'm cooking on the stove. Also keep my Wusthof knives over here in our knife block. I generally have some sort of fruit or vegetable in this bowl over here. Right now it happens to be potatoes, which I would consider neither a fruit nor vegetable. Austin and I are tea people, so we don't really have coffee. We have a wide selection of tea that we always offer to anyone who comes over. I like incorporating a lot. I like incorporating tea into my baked goods. You'll see that in things like my chai macarons, my caramel chai, muffins, Earl Grey macarons, things like that. And then I think it's time for the pantry. I turned the light on so you can see a little bit better in here, but here is our pantry. It's big enough that I can hang out in here. And it just smells like chocolate, which, I don't know, it's amazing. There is a little bit of false advertising going on because I only have 3 boxes of Annie's mac and cheese in here right now. I told Austin that I would have to make a disclaimer, and he said, no, you can just tell them that that's how much you go through in between Costco trips. So, mac and cheese is just the best, okay? This is how I had the pantry organized when we moved in, and it has worked really well so far. I keep cereals and snacks on this top shelf, most grains on the second one, extra appliances on these bottom 2, along with some of my baking chocolate. And then on the other side, I've got my baking shelf, which Austin knows not to touch anything on here because sometimes I'm working with brands, my condiments and canned items, nuts and things. This shelf is kind of an overflow. I also keep a lot of my overflow grains down here. So I've got quinoa, brown rice, oats. I'm gonna go up on my tiptoes here so I can point a little bit better. This bottle, this is an $8 bottle of rum that I won on our honeymoon. So it has a special place of honor right here. That's all. I purchased a 50-pound bag of powdered sugar at Costco and divided it into gallon bags, and this is what I've been left with. So it's a lot easier to store. It was a lot cheaper this way. But I do have a lot of them hidden around the pantry wherever there's space. Not a good way to do this. there was not a good way to do this. And then on the floor of the pantry is where we keep a lot of our plastic and paper goods, with the exception of this canister here. That is where I keep all of my flour because we buy that in bulk from Costco as well. I transfer all of the flour into that tub. Then I transfer a few quarts at a time into these handy poppets is what I like to call them. They're from OXO. This one stores my powdered sugar, my flour, and my regular sugar. And then I can just take these out of the pantry whenever I'm baking something, and it's a lot more convenient than a 50-pound tub. This is where I keep my aprons. This is our dishwasher. I can't say I've ever looked at it from this angle before. It works pretty well. Don't really have many complaints. It has this top drawer here. This was one of the appliances that got upgraded in that second tier. I believe the first tier had the controls on the outside. The upgrade made the controls on the top here. One thing we were really excited about was the bottle jets feature. It has these separate red nozzles here that you can put a water bottle, and it shoots water directly into that. It cleans dishes. That's really all I can say about it. I really like this stove. It has 4 different sized burners plus the center griddle, and that has made pancakes and egg in the hole very convenient. I don't actually have to invest in a griddle pan. It doesn't heat super evenly, but it's a griddle. That's kind of standard for griddles. The oven itself works really well too. It is gas, but it's pretty even heating for a gas oven. It's got quite a few different settings here: bake, convection, self-clean, convection roast, air fry, and steam clean. I really appreciate that the timers are automatically in minutes. So if I put 9 minutes, I only have to put a 9 and a start. I don't have to mess around with the 0, because nobody's putting something in the oven for like 30 seconds at a time. There's plenty of room inside. It came with 2 racks. I haven't really had an occasion where I've needed a third, but I could imagine if I hosted Thanksgiving dinners, that might come in handy. There's also a bottom container. This is where I keep my pizza stone and my cast iron pan. So one of the many things that we had fixed with this house after we moved in was this bottom portion here where the burners rest was not level. And I wasn't going to make a huge deal about it. However, I could not put a pan or a pot on either one of these sections and stir it without the pot moving. Like I would stir it and it would start to wiggle, and I would have to stabilize it with my other hand. And that was not an issue on this side. So I called GE, they sent us a new iron grate, and I said that did not solve the problem. So they sent out a technician who looked at it and said that it was probably this piece here. So they shipped us this piece, and then the technician came back out and reinstalled it, and then ever since it's been fine. Best part of that was we didn't pay a single thing. That was all covered under GE's warranty. As for microwave, our microwave works pretty well. We mostly use it for oatmeal and reheating leftovers. Our microwave also earned us a visit from a GE technician. The builders had left some sort of sticky tape on here that there was a residue. It discolored the handle and we could not get it off. So I called GE, they sent out a whole new door because apparently they don't just manufacture the handle. And then the technician replaced it in like 5 minutes. Are you sensing a theme yet? I don't know if it was just 2020 as a whole. We moved in 2021 and there were lots of things. Welcome to our garage. This is our garage fridge. I think we got this about a year ago, and it is larger than I am. I am 5'5". I think it's 6 feet, but we can fit lots of good things in here. We don't have a ton in here. I keep ice packs on the side here for if I'm transporting ice cream to an event or something. Those are very handy. And then I have my ice cream canister here, some leftover baked goods, some homemade chicken broth, Costco rotisserie chicken, other dinner options. These are our fruits that we pick fresh from local farms. I have so many blueberries and cherries from farms this year, along with some leftover lasagna and breadsticks for easy dinner nights. And then I have a selection of frozen vegetables down here. All of our raw chicken in this container, and then we have some shrimp in this one. But overall, very bare minimum. This is actually a little empty compared to what it was. So that means we are making good use of what we have in here. A few months ago, I told my Instagram followers that I was planning on doing a full kitchen tour video along with a Q&A at the end, and asked if they had any questions, and these were some of the questions I got. The first one is the story behind our house. And this is one that's really special because there were so many things that went so perfectly. I will be quick about it. But there were a lot of things that just perfectly lined up that was a sign of providence to us. My husband Austin and I got married in May of 2020, and that fall we started looking at houses, and the market was insane at that point. We had a realtor that we really liked, but any house that we looked at that we could maybe see ourselves living in ended up going the next day for $80,000 to $100,000 over asking. So that kind of put anything that was in our budget effectively out of our budget. However, just 1 mile away from where we were currently renting, there was a development that had a few lots left. And we thought, you know what, we might as well go look at the model home. What do we have to lose? We are looking at all these other houses that we're not going to be able to afford anyway. We might as well look at something that could be within our price range. So we walked in, I saw the kitchen, and I was sold. And I had told Austin that if we got a house with a nice enough kitchen, I wanted to start a food blog because I loved sharing my recipes. I wanted them to go somewhere as opposed to just friends and family. And he said, okay, yeah, like if we get a nice enough kitchen, like I don't even think he thought that we would end up with a nice one. And then surprise! So I was sold, and he needed a little bit more convincing, but we learned that there were only 8 spots left, and it was by first come, first serve, not lottery. And that was really helpful because Austin had taken some time off of work so that we could go on this grand honeymoon traveling all over the place, but it was 2020, so there was nowhere to go. He had the time. He camped out for 2 nights on the street outside of the developer's portable in order to make sure that we were second in line. We got this house and we were able to pick out everything that we wanted, and I could not have asked for a better location. I have perfect lighting for shooting my photos and videos in here, and I would not have gotten that in any other house in the development. There's also a very sweet neighborhood cat that comes to visit, and had we gotten another spot in the development, she wouldn't have been quite as close. So I'm like, this is our house. This house was made for us. Second question, and I promise they won't be quite as long, but this one also runs into question number 3, so I'll answer them at the same time. Do you take all your photos in the kitchen with natural light? Yes. And 3, what's the best time of day for lighting in your kitchen? It's generally between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. That shortens a little bit in the winter to like 10:30 to 2:30 p.m. I did just purchase a new camera, and the ISO is really good, so I might even be able to extend that time in the winter. I'm hoping, because I have a lot of recipes planned, but we'll see. Finally, question 4, do you plan on doing any upgrades or renovations, or did you build the kitchen exactly how you wanted it? Fortunately, we didn't really get to decide very much about the kitchen layout, and they did a great job designing it, like I said earlier. The only thing that I have debated it being worth looking into upgrading would be our kitchen sink. When we were looking at the customization, farmhouse was an option, but neither Austin nor I have lived somewhere with a farmhouse sink, and we thought, I don't think it would be worth it. Now, using as large of pans that I use, I think the farmhouse sink would be helpful to get rid of that center divider. And the stainless steel can blind you at certain times of the day with the sun going into it. There is a perfect angle from where the sun goes and back into your eyes that when the water is on it, I feel like I have to wear sunglasses sometimes. But that is maybe 2 months out of the year, like 1 month in the spring and 1 month in the fall. Right now is the time. But if we were to change the sink out, they'd have to cut into the countertops, and I don't know. I don't want to deal with cutting the countertops. I'd rather just, if this is my only complaint, like I am fine with this being my one complaint. I think we'd really only upgrade the appliances we have if they broke, and I don't want to think about that because then the handles aren't gonna match, and I've never lived somewhere with matching appliance handles. I really love it, and I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it. So if our oven or stove dies at some point, I think we may upgrade to an induction. However, we have no qualms with anything else in the kitchen. Those are very small potatoes. I hope you have had just as much fun on this kitchen tour as I have had filming it. I absolutely love snooping in other people's kitchens, so the fact that I get to help you do so from afar in my kitchen just feels very fitting. My name is Alyssa. I am the recipe developer and food photographer behind the Floral Apron, where I post new recipes every single week. This month is pumpkin month. Every single recipe has pumpkin in it, and you don't want to miss a single one, so please consider subscribing. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I cannot say it enough, thank you for being here. It's a dream to be monetized on YouTube, and I cannot wait to see where the Floral Apron goes from here. Thank you again. See you next time. Am I gonna get this done today? We'll find out. I think the standard had the, ow, where's my, what is stuck? How are, ow, that was painful. Sorry.